This is Terry Rozier, and you're listening to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson on Tobacco Road Sports Radio on WWBG 1470 AM.
Back to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson.
Welcome back into The Rundown. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, live every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. If you're watching this right now on YouTube or Facebook Watch, we are pre-taping because I wanted to get my man Skylar Callahan, co-host of the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast and beat writer for the Carolina Panthers and Charlotte Hornets for Sports Illustrated. Had to get him on to talk about, just stuff going on, odds and ends with the Carolina Panthers. Nothing really big happening. Skylar, what's up, man? What's going on?
Oh, my gosh. I don't know if I could ever get a night of sleep. And same with you, too. I mean, everybody that covers the Panthers, Hornets, anything Charlotte, it seems like we're not going to ever get one night of a full rest. Like, what's crazy was last night, and typically I usually stay up to like 12:30. For some reason, I was exhausted last night. Now I'm like, man, I might just head to bed early. So I laid down at like 10:30, scrolling on my phone. And my eyes are like fluttering, like I was about to drift off. And as soon as I about did, my phone started vibrating like crazy, and I'm like, oh God. And got the news, and I'm like, let me make sure I'm actually awake and reading this right. And I'm like, oh man. So yeah, that woke me up real quick. I had to run out of bed, run through the house, try to find my laptop, and get it up. So yeah, it's crazy.
So for those that aren't aware, the Carolina Panthers trade star running back Christian McCaffrey to the San Francisco 49ers in the dead of night Thursday. In exchange, they get, correct me if I'm wrong, Skylar, they get a second round, third round, and fourth round pick in the 2023 NFL draft and a fifth round pick in the 2024 NFL draft. We'll get to how strong this may make San Francisco in just a bit, but same thing for me. Me, you and Stu have a group chat. Stu couldn't be with us here today. He had something else he had going on. And I was doing I think I was doing some kind of tech work for A&T or something. We were doing something on the board. So I was in the studio already, and I just finished. I just opened up a beer. It was like 10:30, I think. And I was just sitting there, and I was trying to figure out what to watch on TV. And then all of a sudden I got a screenshot came across my my phone. Actually, you know what it was? Joey Christopoulos, the host of Bleav in Chicago, the Bears Bleav podcast. He's been on the Rundown a couple of times, and he texted me. He was like, "Oh man, McCaffrey, wow!" And I was like, and that was it. That was the whole text. I was like, "What?" So I'm like on Facebook scrolling around. I don't see anything yet. I get on Twitter, and it's all like, rumors are. So nothing that really I couldn't find it. And then the Adam Schefter thing came through on my ESPN app, and I was just like, "Dang it!" Because like once that hit, I was like, "Okay, this is for real." My immediate thought was, I thought back to that Sunday game versus the Rams last week and the way the offense was deployed. And then with this move, along with trading Robbie as well, it makes me feel like they are tanking. Like the front office is tanking. And I've got some I pulled some audio. You were just with the press conference with General Manager Scott Fitterer, and he was asked this question on whether or not the Panthers are tanking. Of course, he's not going to come out and be like, yeah, we're trying to lose every game, trying to get a high draft pick. You know what I mean? Like, like this is what we're trying to do. But if you think back to that Rams game and the high school offense that they put out there, where it was almost like they're sitting there saying they want to win, but that's not winning football. They knew it. They didn't change it in the second half. They knew it wasn't working, and the Rams are catching up to it. And it was almost like they were displaying C-Mac a bit. Like, he's healthy. He can still do this. He can do that. It was almost like they were showing off a used car, and that they wanted to sell the car.
To show it's still ran.
Yeah. They didn't care about the win so much, but they want to get some collateral back for him. This was Scott Fitterer at today's press conference, General Manager Scott Fitterer, talking about the idea of the Panthers possibly tanking.
No, I think what we've had to figure in what's best for the organization, like I was saying. Our focus is still going on and going out and competing every weekend. We expect to win. That was coach's mindset this weekend. The NFL is a business where you lose guys, whether it's injuries, trades, whatever happens. The expectation of winning never changes. Those guys in the locker room fight too hard. They work too hard every day. So we owe it to them. That's our expectation as an organization, is to go out and win every game.
Is he lying, Skylar? Because I mean, you were in the room. You're in the room with him when he's saying all this. Was there a vibe in the room like, okay, here we go? He's just kind of going through the motions, because that's how I felt listening to it. Like, dude, you just traded off the best player on the team that's 26, and you're sitting here talking about how there's some other players that we really like. We don't want to trade them. I don't trust that at all. What was the vibe in there?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, he's not going to come out and say that they're tanking. Nobody would. You know, Steve Wilkes isn't going to say it. Scott Fitter's not going to say it. David Tepper's not going to say it. But when you trade your best player and arguably one of the best players in the NFL when healthy, and you're 1-5, and you also made a trade earlier in the week, yeah, I mean, it pretty much just signifies everything, you know, with the direction that they want to go in. And we'll see. There's a lot of time between now and November 1st. And that's a lot of late nights that we're going to have to stay up now, because we have no idea what time these things are going to go down. And
this isn't it. I don't feel like this is it. Like, I feel like there's going to be a couple more.
I'll say this. I don't think there will be another huge, like, earth-shattering trade involving the Panthers between now and November 1st, but there might be one on a smaller scale. Now, who that may be, I don't know. I don't want to start throwing names out there and start causing speculation or rumors, but I think if you look at some of the older guys on this roster that maybe are on shorter deals, or that maybe have been on the team for a while but may not be a part of that future that Scott Fitter and David Tepper envision, then yeah, they're going to look at seeing what they can get in return to continue to get more draft picks. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think that they're going to openly admit that they're going to tank, but they know that this team is heading in a direction where they're going to be at the top of the draft, and they want to get some of those picks back that they gave away to New York for Sam Darnold, number one. And number two, when you're going into a rebuild and you're going to have a new head coach and you don't have those day two picks, that's hard to get someone attracted to this job, which I talked about yesterday on the Bleav show.
Right.
Like, you have to make this job as attractive as possible. If you get some extra picks, albeit day two picks, that's going to help you out long term. And the only way you're going to get those types of picks is by parting with very valuable pieces.
So when you were saying it, the first name that came to mind, well, two names actually, and they're on the defense. Shaq Thompson. I could see him maybe not wanting to be a part of a rebuild. Them still maybe be able to get something for him. And Brian Burns. Brian Burns is the main name that pops in my head, because he's on the last year of a rookie deal, right? Like, he's on a rookie deal right now. He's one of the better pass rushers in the league. If you put him someplace like Buffalo or something like that, Kansas City, one of these contenders, Dallas, one of these contenders that are like right there, where they'll be more than happy to give up a third or a second for him or whatever. At this point, do you do that? Because, like you just said, them trading McCaffrey was basically, to me, waving a white flag on the season. That they're just like, okay, we've been kind of hinting at it. We weren't going to come out and flat out say we're not trying to, do much this year. But with firing Matt Rule week 4 or after week 4, trading Robbie Anderson immediately after week 5 or week 6, and now trading McCaffrey, there's still 9 days between now and November 1st, or 10 days between now and November 1st, which is the trade deadline. I just don't think they're finished. Now, here, I did clip another piece from Scott Fitter today at the press conference where someone asked him this very question about the rest of the roster.
I think there's certain players on this team. We like the young core of our team. We're building. This isn't a situation where we're trying to sell. We're trying to add players to this already really good young mix. Guys like Burns, guys like Brown. We'll always listen, but I want those guys here. These are guys that we win with moving forward.
So it's kind of left me today kind of feeling like, because like he's saying two different things to me. he's basically saying anybody can get traded if the right deal comes along. But they're also kind of saying, well, there's some guys that we don't want to trade and it would take a whole lot to trade them. I thought that was CMC, but looking at the haul they got back, just looking around, it seems as if everyone's kind of in agreement that the Panthers won the deal, that they got a lot for a running back. Now, granted, we don't look at Christian McCaffrey as just a running back, so maybe that's part of my problem. But for them to get 4 picks for a 26-year-old running back, I guess is good. Depending on what they do with those picks, that'll probably make me feel a little bit better about it going forward.
Yeah, I think
is there a player out there that you're looking at that could maybe go to?
I mean, again, I don't want to
I
start.
don't want to put you on the spot. Yeah, let me just write that up because I don't want to put you on the spot.
I will say this. Like, it does make sense if they were to entertain offers for Shaq, like a guy like Shaq Thompson, that would make sense. Or maybe like a Matt Ioannidis, again, like some of those older guys that may not be here or may not be at their best or their peak while when the team finally gets back to its winning ways. It still may be a 2 or 3 year process before they get back to being competitive again. So are those guys going to want to be here? Are they going to want those guys to be here 2 or 3 years from now? Because they're going to probably start to decline at a certain point. So I would look at those types of guys. Again, I don't think they're going to trade Brian Burns. I don't think they're going to trade Derek Brown or J.C. Horn or Jeremy Chin, DJ Moore. I don't think they're going to trade those guys. When we talk about the tanking situation, like, I don't think the GM, the head coach, or the owner have to ever say, like, we're not tanking. Like, the moves, you don't need to ask those questions because the moves kind of show them themselves.
Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of my feeling on that. But as far as like Brian Burns and stuff, like, which you're right, it's tough because you hear him say, like, it would take something astronomical. That was the term that he said in regards to some of those core guys. Like, it would take something astronomical to move those guys. But it also took something astronomical to trade Christian McCaffrey. And a team was willing to do that and made the deal happen. So it's not like astronomical is impossible. Let's not get those two things confused.
And another thing too, because me and Skylar, Stu just went through this earlier this week with the whole Robbie Anderson thing in social media. Skylar's on social media a lot with his articles and news as it breaks from the Panthers. I'm on social media a lot with all the stuff I do with radio and everything, and then of course the stuff with Bleav. But the one lesson I learned, we talked about this off air before we started. I'm done putting my opinion in written form on Facebook. Like, just done with it, like, because it's almost like people kind of wait for you to be wrong. Like, you can be right 20 times and no one will give you the credit for it. Yeah, that one time where you're wrong, it's like they're waiting in the bushes to jump out like, haha, you said this 3 weeks ago and now it's not true. And I'm here to do this and make a post and we're all going to point and laugh at you. And I'm just like, I woke up this morning to that and I'm like, wow, like, really? Y'all were really waiting this long just to see us be wrong about something with the Panthers? Again, I'm going to trust the people that I talk to in the building, such as Skylar and Joe Person from The Athletic. And
like I told you yesterday on the show, like you point blank asked me if I thought he was going to get traded. And I said, no, like I did not think that, like, again, I had been hearing that there had been conversations between Scott and other teams, most notably LA and San Francisco. But did I think that they would ever get to a point where they could agree on something before November 1st? I didn't really get that feeling. But like literally 2 to 3 hours after we finished recording, we heard talks are intensifying. So, like, that just goes to show you how quickly things can change in this business.
And it's crazy. It reminds me of the people that come down on doctors that said that the COVID vaccine would work. Or that would be, the end all or whatever, knowing full well that this is a rolling ball or whatever. Things change over time as more things are found out. When I'm online talking about, they're not going to trade McCaffrey, it's so much dead cap, blah 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 blah. His extension just kicked in, and he's healthy. Like, it didn't make sense to trade him really at that point. When I said that, Matt Rule still had a job. You know, Robbie Anderson was still here. They were losing games by one possession. Like, there was no reason to trade him at that point. In the past week and a half, so much stuff has happened internally with the Panthers. Plus, people got to remember this too. What we had been hearing really from the start was that it was going to take multiple first-round picks for them to get rid of McCaffrey. And we were just like, no one's going to give that up for a running back. What changed was that Scott Fitterer apparently got the permission from David Tepper to do something without the first-round picks. And once he did that, that opened up the whole thing.
Yeah,
I
thought that was really kind of cool for Scott to kind of go in depth with the trade because, a lot of these trades that go on, whether it be NFL or whatever, you don't really understand what happened in the process that got them to the agreeing of the trade, right? So, like, Scott's always been 100% real with the media. He's always said, he probably gives more than what most GMs do. He explained the whole process. He said they got their first, kind of offer on Christian last Friday. They didn't really get into deep talks until this Tuesday. There was only 3 hard offers on the table. A lot of the other offers was just kind of testing out the water. Like, I just thought that I can't even remember where I was going with this now, but
no, I agree. I didn't expect him to be that in depth with how the process happened, and I could see from the way he explained it, I could see how eventually they landed on doing the deal as opposed to just spur of the moment. Hey, let's trade Christian McCaffrey for a couple of picks, which a lot of people online are kind of frame it as that they were always trying to shop McCaffrey. I don't think they were ever shopping McCaffrey.
Where I was going with that was when you were talking about how they didn't get that first round pick, and he explained that they have some charts and some stuff that they laid out to try and figure out how to make up for not having that first round pick because LA and San Francisco didn't have that. The teams that did have the first round picks were just not interested enough to part ways with that first round pick. So I don't know who those teams are, where they are currently in the draft order, but for them, they looked at, okay, the 2, 3, and 4 plus a 5th in next year's draft. If you combine all of that together, it gets it pretty close to being like a first round grade. It wasn't exactly a first round grade, but it was close enough to where they felt comfortable. And two, if you think about it, like he said in his press conference, if they just get a first round pick for him, that's one pick. That's one chance to get it right. If you get that player wrong, then you lost the trade completely.
Yeah.
Where you have 4 picks to get this thing right. Now, are you going to bank on a 5th round pick in 2 years? Probably not, but at least you have those assets now in your back pocket.
Too, something else, it feels like what they're doing is erasing Matt Rule's fingerprint because I started thinking a little bit deeper on this. McCaffrey got that extension right when Rule came in. He still had a bit left on his original rookie deal, if I'm not mistaken, when they gave him the extension. So maybe this was a way of David Tepper saying, I'm cleaning the books, I'm getting everything out, and we're starting fresh. This is what I should have did to begin with, and I didn't. We held on to some pieces. We should have just cleared the whole thing and started fresh that way. And the McCaffrey deal was one of the ones that, to us, we still feel like, $12 million a year for McCaffrey was a bargain. Like, by the time you got to the end of it, he may have been in line for another contract at 28 or whatever year he would have been in. But I understand why they did it. I don't understand why they did it now. Like, they could have did this in the offseason. Like, they could have did this, before we got to this year.
I think the reason they did it now is because of what's happened the last 2 years, right? He's played in 2 games or 10 games combined over the last 2 seasons coming into this year due to all of the injuries. If you're going to trade Christian McCaffrey, now is probably the best time to do it because what happens if he goes out there this Sunday and tears his ACL or he breaks, some sort of bone or something? Then all of a sudden that trade value just drops dramatically.
Especially when he's 75% of the offense from what we saw last week.
So now is the best time to do it. If they were going to make this move, it makes the most sense because now is when you're going to get the most out of the return. And the other reason why I believe they won't make any major catastrophic moves in terms of some of those younger guys is because they truly do believe in Brian Burns and Derek Brown as part of the future and those other guys. When you trade Christian McCaffrey, like, as great of a player as he is and as dynamic of a player as he is and all the things that he can do for you on the offensive side of the ball, like, at the end of the day, he's still a running back that's had injury issues, right? So trading away a running back doesn't necessarily signal to me that like they're going complete rebuild. But I mean, in a way it is because the offense is already putrid, right?
Yeah.
It's already bad. It's going to be even worse without McCaffrey. He is the entire offense. But at the end of the day, he is a running back. He's not a guy that 4 years from now, they're going to look at and say, dang, I wish we still had Christian McCaffrey. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but we all know the lifespan of a running back in the NFL. It's not very long. Brian Burns, Derek Brown, those guys are going to be here 10, 12 years and playing at a very high level still. Those are more valuable positions. It's harder to find defensive ends that are really good at getting after the passer. Really hard to find a really good receiver. Really hard to find a good cornerback like J.C. Horn or a good defensive tackle like Derek Brown. You can replace running backs. I'm not saying Christian McCaffrey is replaceable, but you can make up for it.
Is that your house? That scared me to death. I thought I was in my house. Oh my gosh. Woo! Oh my gosh, that scared the crap out of me. I thought that was in my living room. Like I looked around, I thought there was.
I knew it was going to happen at some point.
Oh my gosh! I thought there was a Doberman in my living room. I looked over. What's going on?
You thought he was about to flag.
We'll end it with this. Someone mentioned this to me earlier. I'm trying to name a Panther legend that was other than Luke Kuechly that's been able to leave here on their own terms. Like that's been able to leave here without getting traded off or cut or whatever. And I started going through, like, if you go through your top 10 Panthers of all time, yeah, all of them. I mean, from Cam Newton, Steve Smith, Jake Delhomme,
Thomas Davis.
I'm missing a few. John Beeson. Ryan Khalil. Not Ron. He retired, but Jordan Gross kind of got forced into retirement because they were going to get rid of him. Greg Olsen, because he finished with the Seahawks, I think it was, after they cut him. It's like, I get it. It's the name of the game. It's the business, but it's not doing a whole lot of favors. So I feel Panther Nation today because I feel that feeling again, like that feeling that we all felt when Cam got cut or when Steve Smith got cut. This feels like that. I can't think of one where we've traded a player and basically their prime off to another team. I don't think we've had anything like that I can remember off the top of my head, but it feels like one of those, okay, we're losing a face of the franchise. Like, I got to change the intro to Bleav in Carolina Panthers. Like, I was thinking about
That's that. Right. Yeah.
I got to change it. That opens up the intro. And I'm like, now I got to, all right. So now I got to do all this stuff before Monday and get the intro changed over. Even Julius Peppers. Aaron on Facebook mentions Julius Peppers here. And Julius left in free agency for like 8 years and then came back at the tail end of his career. So he kind of finished, but it wasn't on his own terms. If he could have had his way, I would imagine Pep would have wanted to be here the whole time. But Richardson kind of pushed him out a little bit. I don't know. That's all in the past. But my point being, usually the Panther greats, the legends, the ones that we all love, they don't end it here on their own terms. And
well, like you said, there a lot of those guys were probably already out of their prime by the time those things happened. This is the first that I can remember in a while where like it's clear as day that there's still a lot of really good football left ahead for that player, and that being Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, well, we wish C-Mac luck. I hope he wishes us the best as we figure out how to do 2 podcasts a week with this Carolina Panthers unit going forward.
Another game.
I say all this, and I'm like, watch us win on Sunday, like randomly. We'll just randomly beat Tampa, and it'll be like, how did they win? They don't have McCaffrey. They don't have a quarterback. Like what did they do? I don't know. I feel bad for Steve Wilkes too, and I'll end it there because he's getting evaluated on this, and like they're taking his players away.
Again.
I don't know. We'll have plenty to talk about draft, head coaching thing. My whole planting the flag for go after Jim Harbaugh starts today. Like this is literally because I wanted him instead of Rule to begin with. I felt like if you wanted a guy that could do the stuff that Matt Rule was trying to do, kind of be hands-on, sort of the pseudo GM type guy. That's what Jim Harbaugh left the NFL for because he couldn't get that in San Francisco. So he left, went to Michigan, built the top 4 program. But I feel like, say like this year Michigan breaks through gets to the national championship, wins it. That would be the perfect time for Jim Harbaugh to walk back off into the NFL. And who better to do it with than with a team that's going to have a bunch of draft picks, apparently.
And maybe the number 1 pick.
And maybe the number 1 overall pick. So he can get his quarterback. He can kind of set up the lines, his offensive, defensive lines the way he wants them. They already have the makings of a defense from the picks that we've had the previous couple of years. It's the same blueprint he walked into in San Francisco. So,
yeah, and I think a lot of the fans, if there was rumors of another college coach taking this job, I think a lot of them, I mean, I can't speak for him, but I would feel like Harbaugh would be an exception.
Yeah,
like if there was anybody else, I don't know about that, but
I mean, he has experience in the pros. He's had winning teams in the pros. He's took a team to the Super Bowl. The DNA of how he builds his teams, I think it's familiar to Panther fans in terms of run heavy, big offensive lines, defensive lines that get after the quarterback. We'll have plenty of time for me to get on my Jim Harbaugh kick because I woke up with that today. I was like, I want Jim Harbaugh. They're starting over. Now's the time. Let's go get Jim Harbaugh. So
don't worry about Sean Payton. Let's get that over with now.
No,
that ain't happening.
Sean Payton is our new Bill Cowher because that was what the deal was back in the day. Everyone was like, Bill Cowher should come coach the Panthers. His daughter goes to school at NC State, so it makes total sense. And it was like, what? So Payton is the new Cowher, I Bleav, going forward. But we'll be back in just a bit. Got award-winning sports journalist, sports host from chapelboro.com, David Glenn, is going to come on and close us out. You've been listening to The Rundown here on WWBG 1470 AM and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com.
You're listening to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson.